Good morning, everyone. On representation on behalf of UK Confederation by Confasociazioni, I'm extremely happy to have two distinguished speakers today to discuss a very important topic. Historically, Italy has been seen as a country focused on more traditional fields, more traditional sectors like hospitality, for example, which is true, but is also an excellence on more innovative services, more innovative fields. And today we are very pleased to discuss a very, very important topic with Chiara Padua from FinTech District and Giovanni Carotenuto from Carotenuto legal firm. And we are going to explore what a company who wants to invest in Italy in the FinTech field should know and do in order to succeed. So I'll leave the stage to Chiara and Giovanni.
Thank you, Stefano. I would like to thank UK Confederation by Confasociazioni and the FinTech District for their participation. I would like only to say that our firm, Carotenuto Studio Legale, is based in Rome. I'm the owner. Our firm is professional member of the FinTech District in Milan. And so I'm very pleased that Chiara Padua, in representation of the FinTech District, is here with us to explain the business opportunities in Italy, particularly in Milan, focusing on the UK investors willing to enter the Italian market. Chiara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here today. Well, to start, I would like talking about a book I've recently read, written in the 70s by Daphne du Maurier. The book is called The Real Britannia. Daphne conceived a story where the UK decided to Brexit quite 50 years before the real Brexit and became US-UK. So today we do not want to convince you a sort of IT UK would be good instead of the US-UK Daphne conceived, but we think British fintech companies should consider the Italian market and especially Milan, as Giovanni has already said. Why? I would like to give you some insights on that. First of all, Milan is the economic and financial capital of Italy, and Italy is the third economy in EU and the 8th in the world. Italy has a market of 60 million people, and Milan counts 10% of Italian GDP and 3.2 million people at the heart of Lombardy. That is the second wealthiest region in Europe. Milan also is home to over 11,000 financial companies, 70,000 financial services employees, and is also home to the Italian Stock Exchange. Also, we have to say that Milan is the second city in Europe for fastest growing startups and growing VC ecosystem. VC investments in Italian fintech increased from 200 million euros to 400 million euros between 2018 and 2021. So these elements given, I think that Giovanni, you could explain which are the main elements that a UK investor should take into account from a legal perspective in order to invest in the fintech sector in Italy.
Thank you so much, Chiara. Leveraging on the data that you've just provided, I would like to expand a little bit by saying that fintech is a fast-growing phenomenon in Italy too. The latest report of the FinTech District shows that there is a growth of 35% in the number of companies as compared to 2020. Now we have 564 companies in Italy. composing a strong Italian fintech ecosystem, even though Italy is lagging a little bit behind as compared to other European countries such as UK and Germany. Among those companies, 53% are startups, 24% are innovative small and medium-sized enterprises, 21% scale-ups, and only 2% can fall within the scope of corporates, in generally speaking, corporations generally speaking. Now, coming to your question, the Italian lawmaker and also the European Union one took an approach concerning fintech, I would say a decade ago. Fintech traditionally is a phenomenon which started at the end of the first decade of the 2000s, so 2008, 2009. The approach initially was to study the phenomenon. So in other words, we didn't have a special ad hoc rules concerning the fintech. Everything was governed and ruled with the other provisions of law and regulations concerning the sectors. And by the way, we should point out that here we are dealing with banking, financial, and insurance services. So all services which are regulated and need an ad hoc authorization. But then in the course of the time, particularly based on an approach of confrontation of discussion with the operators, the European Union lawmakers and the Italian one started to issue special provisions, and particularly also special regimes such as the sandbox. Just to make an example, in the UK, the FinTech sandbox was introduced in 2014. In Italy, it started last year. The decree was issued in April, entered into force on the 17th of July, 2021, and the first time window for operators willing to enjoy the benefit from the special sandbox regime was 15 November, 15 January 2022. So opened and closed very recently. Now we are waiting for a new window to be opened. So I think what is important right now, based on the several legislation which has been in the meantime passed in Italy, just to mention, to name a few: simplification decree, growth decree, relaunch decree, the introduction of the FinTech Committee, the Bank of Italy's FinTech Channel, the Consob Tech Team, and last but not least, the Milan Hub of the Bank of Italy. I would say that now the UK investors have not only a growing environment, but also under a regulatory perspective, the possibility to liaise with competent authorities in order to understand their needs, to experiment the product and service they would like to provide on the Italian market, and perhaps, if they are eligible, enjoy the 18-month period of the sandbox. Now, having said that, Chiara, I would like to ask you, in this context, what's the role of the FinTech District?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm sorry. I was saying that in this context, the FinTech District is the gateway to the Italian FinTech ecosystem. We are a community of over 210 Italian and international FinTech companies. When I say international, I say companies that have their operations here in Italy, or their legal entities, even if they are not from Italy, or their founders are from abroad. For example, we have in our community companies such as Revolut or Klarna. What we do, For this specific context, for this specific webinar, I think the most important thing to say is that with the Millennium Partners, that is the official promotional agency of the city, we act as a business integrator and facilitator for foreign fintech companies willing to set up and expand in Italy, especially choosing Milano as a landing destination. We give first insights on the Italian fintech ecosystem and introduce foreign companies to our network of partners. Giovanni has already said that his law firm is one of our partners, for example, and also to introduce these companies to key local stakeholders. Also, what we do is continue giving assistance after the landing to let the business grow and thrive through location scouting, recruitment and relocation, and also bureaucratic support. Of course, we also give updates on the most recent regulatory developments in the sector, but to do that, we have to rely on professionals such as Giovanni. So, Giovanni, may you tell a fintech startup which are the fundamental regulatory changes to benefit from in order to enter the Italian market?
Thank you, Chiara. As I already mentioned, perhaps the most important and recent novelty is the sandbox. So I will definitely go into details about the sandbox. However, before that, I would like also to mention the simplification decree, which is the Law Decree 16 July 2020, number 76. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because the ecosystem concerning the fintech couldn't be explained better if we are not going to mention the digitalization process, which is ongoing not only in Italy, in the European Union, but since Italy, based on the most recent reports issued by the European Commission, again, still lag behind several European countries. And when I say European, I would like to include also the UK, which on the contrary is very, very developed in this respect. However, since now the UK is, as everyone knows, out of the European Union, which means that is considered on a regulatory, under a regulatory perspective, a non-EU country, we need to understand not only those rules concerning simplification and digitalization, but also which are the rules which apply to UK investors willing to enter into the Italian market, which are, I anticipate, are the rules which govern the non-EU entities, meaning they cannot enjoy from the freedom of providing services cross-border as any other European member state, EU member state, nor the freedom to establish a branch with a lower regulatory regime as it happens for the European Union member states. So, in other words, the requirements are more stringent right now for UK investors if they want to enter into the Italian market, either cross-borderly or through the establishment of a company or a branch. Coming back to the simplification decree, just a few numbers. The simplification decree concerns mainly the digitalization process, starting from the PA. We have experienced a boost in the digitalization, particularly as a consequence of the pandemic. So as we see, crisis brings opportunities. In the last 2 years, we had millions of new SPID, which is the identity, digitalized identity card or code for any Italian citizen willing to use the services of the PA. And we are also, fortunately, Italy has been somehow growing in the classific, as I said, concerning the European countries. Just to mention that right now we are, the position of Italy is 18 out of 27 countries. And the most encouraging results are in the integration of digital technologies, where we are 10 out of 27. The connectivity position, 23 out of 27, but unfortunately, we are still at 25th out of 27 countries as far as human capital is concerned. So we are still, we still have to do a lot of things in that respect. And the recovery and resilience plan plays a big role in this respect. We are expecting to have 1.9 billion euro only related to the to building and securing and having an energy efficient cloud-based hybrid national infrastructure, which is going to be called the National Strategic Hub. And in this respect, the fintech fits perfectly, because as you can imagine, all the fintech operators are 100% concerned by what is happening in respect of the digitalization. Also, I would like to mention that the growth decree is a law decree of 30 of April 2019, number 34, entered into force on the 1st of April 2019, introduced rules with the aim of promoting innovation and competition in the capital markets through the creation of an experimental and temporary, so time-constrained technical regulatory space for fintech companies, which is known as sandbox. Now, the sandbox, as I said, at a secondary level, so the implementation provision, the key one is the ministerial decree of 30 of April 2021, entered into force on the 17th of July of last year. The first window has already closed, as I said, but let's go into details by saying, first of all, what is the sandbox? It's a simplified transitional regime in constant dialogue with the competent authorities. Just to mention, the main ones are the Bank of Italy for banking services, CONSOB for the financial services, and IVAS for the insurance services. The constant dialogue is the key. So it is, I have almost more than 25 years of experience, and it's the first time ever in which I see a law provision, or the provision of Italian law, which mention English as a language in parallel with Italian. It is a great satisfaction for us, especially for us international law firms which work regularly with the foreign investors, because it very much means that the Italian competent authorities are now open and they welcome more than in the past foreign investments. So, starting from this linguistic peculiarity, another important point is that there are email addresses of each of the authorities which I mentioned, which are dedicated to sandbox, and investors do not need lawyers. They can liaise directly with the competent authorities when they are willing to enter into the Italian market and benefit from the sandbox. Even though, as an operator, I would strongly suggest to be assisted and advised by a lawyer prior to apply. The reason being that there are rules to be pointed out, to be mentioned in the application, for which the applicant asks for a more stringent regime. So this means basically that you need to be qualified, you need to understand deeply the legislation in order to understand which are the provisions for which you are asking this application or the temporary lower requirements regime. Also, there are some eligibility criteria which I think are important to mention in this webinar. The first one is that the company, the applicant, must be significantly innovative with respect to the use of information technology, must bring the project value added to end users and relevant markets. The project must be economically and financially sustainable. And we all know that the ESG is rushed into our lives enormously in the last few years. So the sustainability is in all respects. And again, the project must be in a sufficiently advanced state of experimentation. So if you see, there are all elements which draw a picture of a project which must be economically, financially, and also technologically sustainable, but also innovative. So the reason being that the sandbox goes in the direction of promoting the digitalization of our country. Very quickly, I would like to mention also the admission procedure. So there is an initial phase of informal contacts, as I said. Then there is the initial admission phase, which of course implies the drafting of the application, the consultation with the relevant national competent authority in order to understand which authority is again competent for the project. It may be possible that more than one authority is competent, so perhaps Consob and IVAS or Bank of Italy and Consob, etc., depending on the kind of service and products which the investor would like to offer into the Italian market. Then the startup phase, which is characterized by the testing modalities. And the fourth one is the actual testing phase, which has a maximum duration of 18 months, but can be extended if certain circumstances are met, and during which the operators may share information with each other and also with the authorities in order to improve the regulatory framework and identify the most appropriate measures needed to launch the product or service in Italy in order to succeed. Then at the end of the testing, there is a summary report which need to be drafted and transmitted by the national competent authorities to the committee, to the FinTech committee, which is a committee composed of several authorities, not only in the banking, financial, and insurance service sector, but also the communication authority, the privacy authority, the antitrust, and others. Not to mention also the Ministry of Economy and Finance, which is the chairs the committee. Then there are also the windows, as I said. So the first one was closed. As far as I know, a dozen of projects were taken into account. Now they are already in the testing phase, but we are still lacking some information from the authorities because, as I said, the window closed a couple of months ago. And last but not least, it's important to point out that the regime is open not only to Italian operators, but also to foreign ones. As I said, the only point is that in order to be admitted, the investors, the potential investors, need to comply with the rules for non-EU legal entities, which means a more stringent regulatory regime, the need to be financially sustainable. And just to mention that when you are based in the EU and you have your own, under the so-called home country control, your own authority, supervisory authority, which governs your activity, then everything is easier. But if not, and again, the UK is in this respect considered as a non-EU member state, the operators need to be subject to the supervision and regulation of the Italian authorities, basically. So it needs to be to have a branch or a registered office in Italy, and also go through an authorization process. In my view, also related to the tax benefits. So, in other words, for a UK investor, coming to Italy, what is very, very important is to deal with the tax and law and legal advisor in order to understand the best or the most efficient vehicle, legal entity which must be chosen in order to enter the market, which can be an SRL, which is a limited liability company, not necessarily, can even be a cooperativa, or even if the project is big, an SPA, immediately an SPA. But in this respect, it will be important to frame and analyze the project, understand how many investors are involved, if there are all physical private individuals or companies, if there is an holding company in the UK, for instance. And then, last but not least, go through the online incorporation of the company. So enjoying a lately introduced novelty into the Italian law, which allow for the online incorporation. But I'll go into details in a while, but before that, I would like to ask Chiara, which are the main legal, why the Italian Supervisory Authority, particularly the Bank of Italy, have identified Milan as the natural hub for this market?
Yes, well, I think the Authorities Innovation Center launched in the city by the Italian Central Bank is very important, as it has the purpose to accompany the digital evolution of the financial market. Talking a bit of this project, I take really 1 minute to give you some insights. If we scroll through the names of the first projects admitted to the hub after the first call for proposal that was specific on artificial intelligence, we can see both large giants and smaller companies. Among others, I would like to point that Bank of Italy has chosen Altilia, which is a fintech of our community, that entered the FinTech Hub with a project on the use of data in credit management. Bank of Italy chose also Aptus AI, that is a fintech that is part of the FinPlus Accelerator. And also among the universities, the Bank of Italy chose the one of Salento, which has collaborated with another fintech of our community that is called Videosoft. Turning back to the point, so after I've given some insights on this project, I think that Milan is not random choice for the Bank of Italy, as Milano is the Italian capital of fintech, without any doubt, given that the largest investments in startups and innovative companies are recorded here. So we have the numbers, as we have already said. I can add that more than half of all Italian fintech companies are in Lombardy. About 214 companies on 345 are located in Milano area. So this is the reason for the interest from the authorities. But this is also why we as the FinTech District have decided to build an event like the Milan FinTech Summit to continue positioning the city, but also why as the FinTech District, we have decided to partner with the FinPlus Tech, the accelerator of the national network of Cassa Depositi and Prestiti that I mentioned before. So I think here in Milan, but largely in Italy, we have everything a company can ask to succeed. And I think that in conclusion, Giovanni, you have to share with our audience what are the main legal and corporate elements that an UK investor should consider when setting up and growing a business in Italy.
Sure, Chiara, thank you. You mentioned Milan. The opening in July 2021 of the Milano Hub, 21st of July, was very, very important. So this comes at the end of a long process started, I would say, 7-8 years ago with a FinTech channel, was called FinTech channel, opened at the Bank of Italy in order to liaise with the FinTech operators. At that time, in my view, the Bank of Italy, but all, I would say, the Italian competent authorities needed to understand more the phenomenon. So the channel was opened not only to somehow advocate the process underlying the growth of FinTech in Italy, but also to understand more about the technicalities of the project, how technology was going to impact the existing banking, financial, and insurance frameworks. We need to understand that Italy is not UK. We have a banking and financial and insurance system developed, not as such as UK, so at the same level, nor perhaps even compared to other European countries. Even Estonia, just to mention a country, is very much developed in this respect. They have a much easier legislation. They have even a state Wi-Fi. The population is actually quite smaller than us. And of course, we have a different tradition. The Bank of Italy is a very respected, well-known authority worldwide, because usually we are, Italy in general, but Bank of Italy in particular, has drafted very stringent rules, which has been taken into account, for instance, after the subprime crisis of 2007, when we needed to redraft basically the European Union banking system with introduction in 2018 of the European authorities, the ESAs, so the ESMA, EBA, and the EIOPA. So coming back to your question, Milano Hub is definitely a place which means interest, attention, brought to the town, to the entrepreneurs, to the investors. Of course, FinTech District in premise, so as a natural actor in that environment. But last but not least, also a number of recent legal novelties which are somehow pinning down this kind of environment. Let me mention quickly some of them. The first one is not recent, is the Law Decree 18 October 2012, number 179, concerning innovative startups. Now, that law, which then has been amended in the course of the year, has introduced the concept of innovative startup, which is at the base of almost any project concerning FinTech. Because most of the time, even though there are some incumbents, some existing players, such as Generali, which, since you mentioned the ones which were taken into account by the Bank of Italy as the artificial intelligence projects, Credito Emiliano is another one. So Nexi starts from some banking operators. So those are existing operators, but all the others, so the new projects, the new entrepreneurs, most likely the ones coming from the UK or from the rest of the world, they start with a startup. The startup, why the innovative startup formula? Because it has several legal but also tax benefits embedded into the choice of this legal vehicle. Needs to be established not more than 5 years ago, needs to be headquartered in Italy, in another EU member state, provided that there is a production facility or a branch in Italy. The annual turnover must be lower than 5 million euro. The profits cannot be distributed for 2 years. And the corporate purpose of the innovative startups concerns predominantly or exclusively the development, production, and commercialization of innovative products or services with a clear technological component. and then they cannot result from a merger or demerger of companies or transfer of assets or branches. In addition, at least one of the following three innovation-related indicators must be present in the project. Research and development expenditure correspond at least to 15% of the higher value between turnover and annual costs. Highly qualified staff, so at least 1/3 of PhDs, PhD students or researchers, or at least 2/3 of the team must hold a master's degree. The company must own or be licensee of a registered patent, or it has filed an application for an industrial property right, or owns an original registered software. Now, in this framework, the relaunch decree of 9 May 2020, number 34, introduced measures to support the innovative startup ecosystem, particularly focusing on tax and economic incentives, such as free and simplified access to the guarantee fund for the small and medium-sized enterprises, exemption from chamber fees and stamp duties, extension of the deadline for covering losses and others. So in this respect, Innovative Startup is a young, high-tech company with great growth potential. The main point are, in order to start the business, so now I'm just addressing your question, particularly Chiara, the first of all is necessary to understand the number of shareholders, the nationality, and the relations between shareholders in order to understand which company scheme, which legal entity is most suited to the activity to be carried out. Then, in order to choose the legal entity, it is important to focus on the economic and tax incentives in the relevant legislation. In the technology, in particular in the FinTech sector, when the business is about breaking technology, there are opportunities for access the markets such as the regulatory sandbox, as I said. So the sandbox is definitely the point which, after having chosen the kind of legal entity, having framed the interests which are at stake. So if there are, as I said, private investors, holding companies, etc. If there are they come from several countries, such as non-EU and EU. Even this is very important because perhaps a legal advisor can suggest to open first in another member state and then open a branch in Italy. That could be an option. But then, most importantly, understand how the project and the legal entity can fit into the sandbox scheme. In this respect, as I said, the entities do not have to have the registered office necessarily in the European Union, but they can apply for the admission to the Italian sandbox if they already have a branch authorized to operate in the territory, and if they are subject to the supervision or regulation of, as I said, Bank of Italy, Consob or Vivas, whichever is competent for the field they are going to enter into. In this respect, let me mention that this is also a criticism which has been moved to the sandbox regime, because, in other words, somebody has said, many commentators have said, this means double regulation. So, in other words, you need to be regulated beforehand, and then in order to apply for the sandbox, and then afterward. This is very much true. However, in my view, this means basically making first the homeworks. So in other words, you need to understand, first of all, what you would like to do, which is your project. If the project falls within the scope of the areas which are regulated, you need to get a license. And in this respect, the liaising with the authorities before even applying for the sandbox can help. And then the following, I would say, authorization. So in other words, at the end of the sandbox regime, so if you go through the testing, you end up the sandbox, and then you are somehow authorized to offer your products in Italy, and so you start commercializing your products or services, then you can definitely benefit for what you've done before. So in other words, it's not necessarily a real second or additional authorization. It's something which is which comes at the end of a path, and this path is very important, provided that you are benefiting from if not 18 months, if not 2 years of lower regulatory requirements. Then I would say very, very important is to focus on the corporate purpose of the company. So it is very important to choose a good legal advisor, because the corporate purpose, when you incorporate a company, so you drafted bylaws, means focusing on what you like to do, and you need to keep an eye on the future, not only on the very near future, but also in the long term, in order to understand if you like to include, for instance, more services or potential services into the corporate purpose, and also the markets you like to enter into. Then after those evaluations, as I said, when it comes to the incorporation itself, the legislative decree 8 November 2021, so very, very recent, number 183, introduced the possibility for incorporating a company fully online. So you don't need to, a UK or foreign investors does not need to come to Italy or to delegate, to send a proxy, a power of attorney, for instance, to a lawyer in order to incorporate, but they can do that directly sitting at their desk in UK, provided that they comply with some requirements. In that case, only limited liability companies and simplified limited liability companies can benefit from this procedure. And most of the time, in my experience, this is the vehicle which is used more frequently, also because it's simpler than any other kind of company under Italian law. And so this excludes joint stock companies and partnership. Then the procedure itself reduced considerably the time required for incorporation. Usually it takes no more than a month in total. So a month concerning the collection of documents, the drafting of the bylaws, the corporate purpose, the identification of the vehicle with the tax analysis, etc. And then the real incorporation and the registration with the local register of companies, which means that the company is alive and kicking and can start providing services or entering into contractual agreements with any kind of counterparty, or why not applying for the sandbox. It is also important to understand that the structured business plan, in order to focus on the relevant markets, on the relevant actors and counterparties, contractual counterparties, need to be identified, regulated, and analyzed beforehand. Well, having said that, I would say that perhaps I will leave to Stefano any kind of conclusion, provided that we have no questions from the audience, or there is no question coming even from Chiara, if you like, Chiara. Thank you.
Thank you. Everything is very clear from my side. I can just add that if you need anything else today or in the day after, you can contact us even on LinkedIn. We are at your disposal to answer to any other questions from your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiara. Thank you, Giovanni. It's been amazing. I mean, now I got so many new information I need to digest, but it's definitely clear, more clear, that Italy is a place where you can start or you can launch a fintech adventure. I have a question, which is not very technical, but it might be a very important point in order to attract more business. Do you think, based on your experience, that the institutions, the Italian institutions, are doing enough in order to promote Italy as a hub for a fintech investment, or if they don't, what they should do in the future. Because as I mentioned when we opened the webinar, most of us consider Italy as a beautiful country, specialized in certain things, but when it comes to fintech, you have in mind other countries. And Giovanni mentioned Estonia, for example, which managed in a very short time to attract so much. So Chiara, I will start from you, and then I'd like to hear from Giovanni.
Yes, thank you. Well, what can I say is that we are working with institutions and authorities to do that. And the Milan FinTech Summit I mentioned before is only one of the projects to position Milan, but the whole Italian FinTech ecosystem as an international level. The event, for example, is completely in English. We didn't have an event in English for the international audience. We only had events talking about FinTech in Italian. We cannot be international if we continue speaking Italian. We have to speak English. We are too local at the moment, but we have a lot of really very interesting companies here in Italy. Our job here at the FinTech District, together with all our partners, Giovanni included, is to enhance this ecosystem. And I can say that all the institutions, all the authorities are coming to the summit, for example, to the Milan FinTech Summit, because they all have the same purpose. Position the Italian FinTech ecosystem as one of the most important in Europe at first, and then in the world. I can say that we have hosted the Bank of Italy, we have hosted Consob in the past, we have hosted the Italian Banking Association, for example, so the banks are on board. Banks are not afraid from FinTech. From FinTech companies, they want to collaborate with them, they want to know them. So I think we have each international trade agency in English, so everyone is on board in this project, but the concept here is not the project itself, is that we want to tell everybody Italy is here. We are here to stay, so we can play on this field. I think you have just to understand better the market, and there is a lot of job to do, but we are doing it. And if you have any comments, if you have any suggestion, we are pleased to receive anything and to have a feedback, because we need this to grow.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Giovanni?
Stefano,
same question for you.
I think it's a very important question. Chiara pictured very well the situation. So in other words, I fully rely on what she said. However, I would also like to add, from, of course, a legal and regulatory perspective, there has been an enormous effort in the course of those, I would say, 7, 8 years. And your question gives me the opportunity to expand a little bit on, in mentioning the FinTech channel, as I said, opened at the Bank of Italy 8 years ago. Several initiatives at Consob. Consob has a team called LinfTech. So there is a Consob Tech team focusing on technology and on FinTech. They issued periodically the so-called Quaderno di Finanza. So those are the publications which are uploaded on the Consob website. Very important, very interesting. And last but not least, they have started several initiatives together with some universities. Particularly, I would like to mention the Milan Polytechnic. They are doing webinars and seminars very, very frequently. I mean, I would say periodically, concerning FinTech, concerning the different areas. actually, we didn't mention that under the FinTech umbrella, there are AI, so artificial intelligence, crowdfunding,
InsurTech, for example. Yes, we consider FinTech quite everything. So also TechFin, also InsurTech, PayTech, everything that is related to the financial sector. So it's a wide range of companies inside.
And so this means that there is a lot to be explored and a lot to be done. So, and also Stefano, I would like to, I don't want to refrain from answering your question. So you mentioned the Italian authorities and that Italian institutions. So now we have explored more about the competent national authorities in the regulatory area. But I would say that also the Ministry of Economic and Finance, generally speaking, the government. So perhaps even the presence of Cimbolani, of Colau, they are very much interested into the digital and also environmental transition. But generally speaking, the recovery plan can play also a very important role in this respect. So more investments, more an approach, if I may say, even coming back to Olivetti, so the approach of Italian entrepreneurs, which can make the difference in general, in life. I mentioned Olivetti because of the personal computer well before Apple in the US. And since we are now in the position to somehow exploit, if I may say, the consequences of Brexit. So as Chiara said at the beginning of the webinar, Italy is very much similar. We have almost the same kind of number of inhabitants. We are developed, not to the same level, but I mean, we tend, or at least we strive to be economically and financially stable like UK. So we can represent, and Milan can represent, the natural hub for those kind of services. It will very much depends also on networking events such as the one of today. So the fact that we are here together, you from UK, Chiara from Milan, I'm based in Rome, but I travel very often, is also very important. It opens up a world to potential investors. They understand that they cannot be left alone if they would like to invest money in our country. So perhaps it's my answer is may sound a bit too optimistic, but if we are following this path and we are going in, we continue to go in this direction, there are several elements which seems to be to give us hope for the future. So I would say let's continue to encourage and promote these networking initiatives such as the one of today.
Thank you very much. I'm positive too about the future. So once again, a massive thanks to Chiara and Giovanni for this opportunity, for giving us more insight and more information on how to start a fintech adventure in Italy. I'm pretty sure we'll have more opportunities in the future to discuss the topic again as part of these webinars we do on a regular basis as a UK Confederation by Confassociazioni. So thanks for what you've done for us, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day. Bye-bye.